to advance and to become better, we have to have greater and newer, different experiences in a broader scope of life, and we're with more intelligent men who are able to give us insights into what's going on. The problem with men is that God has placed within every man limits to his behavior, to his abilities, and to where he can, so that no man can truly stand alone, because one can be brilliant in one area and just lacking in another. And when the Lord begins to deal with us, then we can experience the life of the ages. And these are things that just fall off our tongue, the life of the ages, but sometimes we don't realize just how precious our relationship to Him is, and we like to judge ourselves among ourselves, and that's just the way of man, to always be competing and figuring out who's better at this and if we're good or whatever. And the Lord is on a totally different plane. He comes to us in the spiritual and talks to us in the night seasons and begins to talk about the attitude of our hearts. And He'll talk to us about the attitude of our hearts before we've even had our hearts tried by circumstances. And He'll let us know what's in our heart before it's ever brought out by the things that we go through. And most of the time we just flat out deny it, that it's not even there. We're not like that, no way. And usually He'll have someone come across our path that has the same heart condition that we do. And it's funny how we can see into other people's lives and see their lacking and see their shortcomings and see so clearly where they are, and yet not know that that same thing's in us. And so we can see clearly, and it bugs us. And He says, don't you know, whosoever you are, that when you judge another, that you've already judged yourself, that the same thing's in you? And if we see something in someone else and we judge it and say, well, that's just terrible, I'll never be like that, just know of a surety that you're already that way, or it wouldn't bug you.
It's true.
And so the Lord has ways of causing things to happen in our lives. And He's like a very sophisticated, wise ruler who appears not to be ruling at all. And we just be stumbling through this life, and yet He's orchestrating the whole thing. Hallelujah. And the thing that I'm realizing is He knows how to bring balance to your life where you're totally and completely out of balance. He knows how to cause you to have peace when all turmoil is just blowing up around you. He causes you to have joy when things would just have you in complete dismay. And these things are internal. They come from within. And there's a lot of people out here who have been given the perfect circumstances, and it's just been handed to them on a tray. And I've noticed a lot of times I'll be seeing like the most beautiful sunset in the world, and people will be so involved with their internal struggles that they won't even see the beauty of nature around them. And they'll be in a position where they have all that this world can give them, and they're totally unhappy because some turmoil in their inner being is not worked out. And the Lord just doesn't take you out of this world, but He causes you to be in this world, but not a part of it. In other words, you're not receiving your life from the world, but you're receiving your life from Him, and then giving that to the world. But the world doesn't receive it because it didn't come from them. It didn't come from their stamp. They didn't stamp your hand. They didn't stamp your forehead. And so you're not allowed to buy and sell among them. It says because you just didn't happen to have their belief system, and you didn't make the right connections, and you didn't have the right fellowship. Hallelujah. But the Lord, He has a way of causing us to have a personal experience with Him. But then He always has that tempered, so that it's of no private interpretation, that we realize that others are having that same experience. And then we read in the Scriptures where different ones had that same experience, and a lot of times we're tempted to take the Scriptures, read what they have, and apply it to our life, and say, now we've got it, instead of letting the life of Christ flow out of us. And I'm just saying that it has to be both. You have to have an internal relationship with Him, and then you have to constantly be aware of what's going on in other people's lives, so that you're just not having an experience unto yourself. And that's why we meet together, and that's why we don't stop meeting together, so that we can discern and know the difference between something that's just coming up out of our own personal unique self, and then something that's universal, where Christ He can deal with you personally, but the dealing that God has with you is something that's shared. We can share in this experience that we're having. If it's true to the Lord, it'll be a shared experience. If it's true to the Lord, it'll be a drawing together. If it's truly the Lord, you'll be wanting to get together with people. If it's truly the Lord, it'll be a team. If it's truly the Lord, it'll be a common salvation. Not in common as in cheap, but common as something that's shared, something that we all have in common. And those who are born again of an incorruptible seed, they all have a certain experience in common with each other. And this common experience that we have, each one has it on an individual level, and yet it's shared. It's something that causes us to be made one, even as He is one. So, because we can't be made one on the natural level, because our land and our sea are totally different than other people's land and sea. See, my land is my physical body, my sea is my soul, and the land and the sea, the sea rages. That most men's souls are driven by the wind, and it's raging in there. But when the Lord's Spirit comes on you, He causes your soul to be at peace. No matter what's happening out here, you're not troubled in your soul, because He's in rulership over you. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it is.
Amen.
And those that don't have the master of the wind, those that don't have the one who rules everything by the power of His will and word, all they have is their own will. And their own will, they consider their own will to be holy. They consider their own will to be righteous. They consider their own will to be right. It says, all of a man's ways are righteous in his own eyes, but the Lord tries the heart. And so, if you've come to know the Lord and His will, and seen it played out, and when you become a part, and you're able to flow into His will, you find out that your will is not that holy. Your will is not godly. Your will is not the everlasting Father. Your will is not the Prince of Peace. Your will is not that which is born from above. But your will is that which was born from beneath, and you came into the world a captive. You came into the world a servant of sin. And your